Whatever kind of classroom you may find yourself walking into, empowering educators is the spark, the anchor, and the perspective you need. It is your quick hit of clarity and perspective, crafted for teachers who want to teach with purpose, build stronger relationships, and create classrooms where students thrive. Think of it as your daily dose of good practice in action. Practical, grounded, and designed to create spaces where students feel seen, safe, and ready to learn, while also allowing teachers to find their own authentic flow. All right, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to Empowering Educators. This is Ben Russell from Empowerment Ed. Today's episode is going to look at the not-so-secret herbs and spices that go into making a great teacher. And to help us get there, it starts by asking ourselves a simple question. What makes a really good teacher? And if you were to answer that very question right now, finishing that sentence, a really good teacher is, what would you say? We can all recall someone from our own schooling experience who was the teacher. There was just a certain aura to them, loved by all and despised by none. They were most likely a large catalyst as why you chose teaching. And those same teachers exist in your school. And perhaps you may be one of those particular type of teachers that had that perceived gift of the gap. And while there is some debate on what actually measures what makes a great teacher, there are indeed a couple of measures that have stood the test of time, that sometimes get lost in the overcomplication that is simply teaching well. It comes down to a couple of simple fundamentals that make a really good teacher. If you were to think about what these may be, what would you say? If unsure, it might be easy to go the other way and look at the elements of what makes an undesirable teacher. And for us to examine this, it's a pretty low risk for us to look at fictional characters to see an example of what not to do. Take Professor Snape from Harry Potter. While his fans would say the character arc was one of nobility, if we were to simply look at his teaching, you probably wouldn't have wanted him to be your teacher. And most likely, you were petrified of the guy. Or take Edna Krabappel from The Simpsons. Sure, you could have gotten away with daylight robbery in her class, but the learning probably wouldn't have been elite. One simple acronym that I believe encompasses the fundamental elements of what makes a great teacher, one that could walk into the new school year with confidence and clarity, would be this. A great teacher has the CCCA perspective. No, not to be confused with the ACCC. A CCCA teacher is one that is competent, has control of their class, cares for those they teach, and is authentic. The first component of this model is competence, or simply put, knowing your stuff. You could be the nicest, most caring individual on the planet, but would still come across as a pretty ordinary teacher if you don't know your subject matter. I've lost count of the times across my career where I've overheard students say to another friend, Mr. X, he's a great guy, but gee, he's got no idea what we're talking about when a hard question gets asked. The biggest and perhaps most important element of being an effective teacher is being competent in the subject curriculum you are teaching. Knowing your stuff matters first. Secondly, students are looking for a teacher that has control of their classroom. Not to be mixed up with a tyrant who demands silence for no reason. A teacher in control has clear boundaries, norms, expectations, and follows through on what they say they will do. Students trust that when someone deviates from the path in that particular class, the great teacher is there to control the room and steer things back on track with minimal fuss or fanfare. At the moment, our previous example of Professor Snape looks pretty good because he's got an immense amount of competence in his subject matter and controls the class on a dime. Yet he still isn't seen as a desirable teacher. As the perception is for Professor Snape, that he doesn't care for his students. And this is where the third component comes in. A teacher, a great teacher, needs to care. Of course, it's critical that you know your subject matter, and it's crucial that you have control of your classroom. But it all falls away if there isn't an abundance of care shown for your students, their well-being, their learning, and their potential. How we show this care can be done in a variety of ways. And students often best respond to this through a teacher caring by being their authentic selves. Being your authentic self is exactly how you hear it. Teaching with competence, with control, with care, by simply being you. For me personally, this perhaps took a long time to get right, particularly early on in my career, where I needed to shake the idea that students will respect me more if I overcompensated certain elements of my story or my craft that I didn't perceive as a strength in order to be perhaps liked. So how can we action nailing the AAA mindset of being a good teacher as we approach the new school year? I'd suggest simply picking one of the domains to aim for and have a micro goal to improve upon, and then being gentle on yourself by giving yourself an appropriate timeline for that goal to be achieved. An example for me, my main teaching area is economics, and one year I got found out by not knowing my content well and fumbled through a lesson. It was embarrassing and a mistake I did not want to repeat. Therefore, I allocated a little bit of time to be crystal clear on how I get my competency right on that particular topic. Whatever yours might be, simply start with one. And then once you've got that micro goal, don't be afraid to find assistance from great colleagues to work on the problem collaboratively and then go from there. Your students will be better for it. Your school will be better for it. And you, most of all, will be a better teacher because you're continually working to be that fantastic, great, really good teacher that is working on giving competent instruction, having control over the tone of your class, is one that cares deeply for those you teach, and you have the confidence to be your authentic self. That's all for today's episode of Empowering Educators. If you're keen to dive deeper into more of what we do for both teachers and students at Empowerment Ed, or explore our face-to-face professional learning opportunities, head to www.empowerment-ed.com.au to see what we're building for educators like you. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, take care.